Part 37. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 361. Fuekang is docile most of the time, and this time is no exception. Master is master, unlike second senior brother. Chu Qinghuang asked, "What's the difference?" Fuekang thought for a while. Master is more intimate. Chu Qinghuang raised his eyebrows and wanted to ask him how close he was. If this question were asked of other men, Hobing would naturally come up with random words, but she also knew in her heart that Fuekang had become a little bolder recently, but not so bold that he dared to say anything. She walked to her horse and got on it neatly. "Let's go, I will take you to see my senior brother." Fuekang then mounted his horse and galloped towards the royal road with Chu Qinghuang. He met Rongzhan in front of him and they entered the palace together. "How is my sister's harvest?" Rongzhan sat on the horse and turned to ask. "I can't say that I haven't gained anything," Chu Qinghuang said, "at least I know where the problem is." Rongzhan was surprised. "Seriously? What are you lying to?" A look of admiration appeared on Rongzhan's face. "Sister is really powerful. Brother Huang and I have been thinking about it for a long time but couldn't figure out the reason. The authorities are confused, but bystanders know clearly," Chu Qinghuang said, "and I am a woman. It is more convenient for women to talk to women together. I don't believe it." "If you don't believe me, pull him down." Chu Qinghuang flicked the reins, and the horse let go of its hooves and galloped on the deserted imperial road, galloping towards the palace gate. Fuekang followed behind. When they arrived outside the palace gate, the three of them dismounted. Chu Qinghuang pondered for a moment and said truthfully, "Miss Fu is quite suitable for the emperor brother. He has excellent appearance, excellent nature, intelligence and gentleness, and a tenacious temperament that is not afraid of wind and rain. Except for his imperfect handling of the matter of entering the palace, there is really nothing to criticize in other aspects." Rongzhan said, "You just met her once, and after just saying a few words, you knew she was suitable. As the future mother of a country, your temperament cannot be too out of the box, nor too simple." Chu Qinghuang walked into the palace door. "Gentle, generous, calm and steady, this is the style of a queen." Rongzhan said, "Like my sister." "She is different from me," Chu Qinghuang denied. "She is suitable to be a queen, and I am suitable to be a queen." After saying that, he turned to look at Fuekang. "Am I right?" Fuekang nodded. "Master is absolutely right." Rongzhan's lips twitched. "Fuekang, have you ever been whipped by your father in the past few months on Kangyun Mountain?" Fuekang said, "No. No." Rongzhan originally just asked casually, but he didn't expect to be denied. He turned his head in surprise, stared at Fuekang's handsome face, and narrowed his eyes slightly. "Are you lying to me?" Fuekang raised her eyes to look at him with a hint of confusion in her eyes, then turned to look at Chu Qinghuang, as if she didn't understand Rongzhan's reaction. "What did he lie to you for?" Chu Qinghuang spoke calmly, with an undetectable curve at the corner of his mouth. "Fuekang never lies." Fuekang nodded secretly. He would never lie in front of his master. "This is impossible." Rongzhan frowned. How could such a stern father not take action? Fuekang is not a genius who can learn 18 kinds of martial arts in one go. Fuekang took the initiative to explain, "Master has other ways of punishment." "Other punishment methods?" Rongzhan paused. "Tell me about it." Fuekang pursed his lips, thinking that the debt owed on the account book had increased to 5 years and 8 months, and his heart instantly became extremely heavy. Although his master had comforted him, after he completed his studies, the time he owed would naturally be shortened, and it was impossible for the master to really keep him by his side for that long. However, every time the time on the account book increased, his psychological pressure would increase. Add a layer. Especially after the master said that the ministers please let her be drafted, the debts on the ledger became even more difficult to look at. Father's disciples are not just good at hands. Chu Qinghuang considerately helped Fukang out of the siege. Besides, after so many years, my father's temper has become much better than before. Second brother does not need to be jealous of Fukang's treatment. Rongzhan was not jealous, but just slightly unbalanced. He firmly refused to admit that it was jealousy. Why is his biological son not treated as well as his apprentice? When his father taught him a lesson, he never showed mercy. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 362. Chu Qinghuang ignored him and quickly arrived at Qinzhen Palace. After the guards made the announcement, Chu Qinghuang and Rongzhan stepped into the palace gate and saw the man sitting behind the dragon case approving the memorial. Dressed in bright yellow, he is unparalleled in dignity. His appearance is very similar to Rong Yu's, with cold and noble eyebrows and an extraordinary demeanor. He is a little more gentle than Rong Yu, but the imperial pressure accumulated over 10 years since he took the throne is still strong. Fukang only looked at it once, then lowered his head and stood beside Chu Qinghuang, silent and humble. At the same time, Xian Yuanhao looked up. The deep eyes first fell on Chu Qinghuang's face, and he carefully looked at this stunningly beautiful girl. After a moment, he slowly said, "Nuani er." Chu Qinghuang nodded and bowed gracefully, "I have met the emperor brother." Fukang followed and bowed, "See you, senior brother." Xian Yuanhao turned his eyes slightly and looked at Fukang, "Are you a shadow guard who was accepted as a disciple by your father?" Fukang replied, "Yes." Xian Yuanhao's eyes became deeper and deeper, with a heavy meaning of scrutiny. There was silence in Qinzhen Hall. The palace people had been dismissed in advance, and there were only the four of them here. There was nothing they couldn't say, but Xian Yuanhao just didn't say anything. His eyes fell on Fukang's face. Xian Yuanhao was silent for a long time before saying, "I heard from Rongzhan that you slept on the same bed before you were married." Fukang looked slightly tense, lowered his head and said, "Yes." Presumptuous. Fukang pursed his lips and said nothing. Brother Imperial Chu Qinghuang said unhurriedly, "I just went to Fu's house, met Miss Fu, and chatted with her for a while." Xian Yuanhao frowned, "What did she tell you?" "I know why she is unwilling to enter the palace as queen, and I also know how to solve this problem." Xian Yuanhao was surprised, "Do you know how to solve it?" Chu Qinghuang nodded. "Tell me about it." "Brother Imperial, what do you think of me, this little shadow guard?" Chu Qinghuang pointed at Fukang, "Isn't it good looking?" Xian Yuanhao's expression was subtle, and his eyes fell on Fukang's face again. "Raise your head." Fukang slowly raised his head. Xian Yuanhao picked up the teacup, took a sip of tea slowly, and casually raised his eyes to look at Fukang's face. "She is indeed well born. Although his temperament is not as noble and elegant as that of a young master from an aristocratic family, he is better in that his sharpness is restrained and his appearance is rich and handsome, like the bright moon in the night sky, its light is just right and soft." Soft. Xian Yuanhao thought about it and felt that it was really rare for this word to be applied to a shadow guard. Shadow guards are usually silent and solemn. When they don't take action, they are as silent as a shadow. When they take action, they die bloody. When has it ever been mellow? Is the emperor satisfied with him? Xian Yuanhao came back to his senses and said in a calm tone, "What do you want me to be satisfied with? I don't plan to marry him." Fukang. Senior brother joked. "The younger sister brought her sweetheart here to pay homage to the emperor. He must be satisfied." Rongzhan said slowly, "Although this sentence sounds threatening, there is no way." Who can let the emperor be satisfied? Brother, do you have 7 inches of weakness that can be pinched by others? Xian Yuanhao raised his hand without comment and said, sit down. Chu Qinghuang turned around and walked to a chair aside to sit down. Fu Kang stood beside her quietly and obediently, never taking the initiative to violate the rules. Xian Yuanhao raised his hand to hold the pot, poured a cup of tea himself, and asked Rongzhan to hand it to Chu Qinghuang. What happened to Geer? Chu Qinghuang said, I can't disclose the reason. The emperor can ask her personally in the future. The solution I gave is very simple. First, my father will arrive in Dongling in a few days. Maybe the emperor needs to cooperate with her to perform a performance, it's a trick. Secondly, Mr. Fu's position may need to be adjusted. Master Fu's position? Xian Yuanhao frowned and understood what she meant almost instantly. Is Geer worried about her father? That's right, Chu Qinghuang said, Brother Emperor, it's best to calculate the consequences of a dominant family in advance. If the emperor plans to have no concubines in the harem and only appoints one queen, he must be mentally prepared in advance for the queen's natal family to be unparalleled. There is no one in the harem to compete with, and the queen's status will be very noble, so noble that even if Mr. Fu does nothing out of the ordinary, many ministers and families will unconsciously move closer to him, which cannot be controlled by human power. And if Mr. Fu cannot control himself, he will naturally develop inflated greed. Driven by strong greed, the Quazang's mansion will step into the abyss. If the relationship between the emperor and the empress is not good, then the state has national laws and the family has family rules. If the powerful officials do something they should not do, they should deal with it how they should be dealt with. But once the personal relationship between children is involved, there is no way to deal with such matters fairly. Even if the queen is a virtuous and generous woman, it will have an indelible impact. Therefore, if you want the love of the emperor and the empress and the long-lasting love between husband and wife, the most critical issue is to prevent the possibility of greed expansion in advance and nip everything in the bud. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 363. Xian Yuanhao held the teacup and fell into brief contemplation. Once she knows what the problem is, it is not difficult to solve it. The key is how to completely eliminate her worries. Xian Yuanhao thought of his ancestors' decisive temper and really had no choice in dealing with her. After a moment of silence, he nodded slowly, thanks to Nuani'ar. There is no need to be polite between brothers and sisters, Chu Qinghuang said, this time I came to Dongling. In addition to bringing Fukang to visit the emperor, I also wanted to borrow money from him. Xian Yuanhao said, how much do you want to borrow? Fukang and I each borrowed 5 million taels, making a total of 10 million taels. Chu Qinghuang took a sip of tea and said, this is what the father meant. Xian Yuanhao glanced at Fukang, is Ziki very poor? Very poor. Chu Qinghuang nodded, not caring about letting people know about Ziki's predicament. The money from confiscating the house is a drop in the bucket, and it is not enough to support the army. Rongzhan curled his lips. My little sister is really a considerate little cotton-padded jacket. She uses her own money to raise troops for other countries. This is what it should be. Xian Yuanhao glanced at him. Since Nuani'ar has become the queen of Ziki, she should do more things that a king should do for the people of Ziki. Besides, the little sister was born because of Princess Ziki. The opportunity to extend life and make Ziki stronger during his reign is the best thank you gift to them. Rongzhan was silent and nodded. Brother Huang said yes. Can the shadow guard next to you borrow 5 million taels of silver and be able to repay it? Xian Yuanhao said in a calm tone, it wouldn't be worth so much if you sell him. Fukang was immediately ashamed. If you sell it to me, 5 million taels is not too much. Chu Qinghuang said calmly, but he belongs to me originally, so there is no way to negotiate a sale. Brother Huang, don't worry, this money will definitely be used by Fukang in the future. Give it back to you. Fukang nodded silently. If senior brother wants the head of the Emperor of Northern Xinjiang, I will get it. His head should be worth 5 million. Of course, after taking the head, if Dongling wants to send troops to attack Northern Xinjiang and take over Northern Xinjiang, it will cost more than 5 million taels. The head of the king of a country is more than 5 million taels. Chu Qinghuang glanced at him sideways. You think of him as too worthless. Fukang meekly said, this price is not the price bid by my subordinates. Although he didn't know how much the head of the Northern Xinjiang Emperor was worth, he knew the price of the Dongling Emperor. The Northern Xinjiang Emperor was definitely not as valuable as the Dongling Emperor's head, so 5 million is about the same. He is not greedy. As long as someone is willing to pay, he is willing to take the business. Chu Qinghuang said, the marked price does not represent the actual price, but the person who pays can only pay so much. Fukang thought thoughtfully, Master, what you mean is that the Northern Xinjiang treasury can only provide 10 million taels. What 10 million taels? Rongzhan raised his eyes and frowned, didn't you say 5 million taels just now? Why did it rise to 10 million taels in a blink of an eye? As soon as these words came out, the Qinzhen hall suddenly became quiet. There was no special expression on Xian Yuanhao's face, but his eyes were clear. Someone is paying for my life. This is a statement, not a question. So there is no need for Fukang to answer. Imperial brother's life is only worth 10 million taels. Rongzhan frowned, is Northern Xinjiang so poor? Fukang was silent for a moment. This was the price a few years ago, but no one has ever accepted it. Although money is important, what is the use of having money if there is no life? Taking over this business is like stepping into hell. Who doesn't know how arduous this task is to be among the top 3 killers on the ranking list? No one would be stupid enough to take the risk. Rongzhan narrowed his eyes and looked at him. Fukang, you don't want to take this business, do you? Fukang shook his head quickly, no. How dare he take this business? Even a leopard wouldn't dare to eat his ambition. I don't dare to measure you, Rongzhan sneered. How many years has the Ziki Dark Pavilion been built? Even if you are the top shadow guard in Ziki, you may not be ranked in Dongling. How dare you in your mind? If you have any thoughts that you shouldn't have, I won't allow you to come and go. Chu Qinghuang frowned, second brother, don't bully Fukang. Rongzhan Yuyuan. Sure enough, he has a sweetheart, and even his second brother doesn't take him seriously. I don't want the head of the Emperor of Northern Xinjiang. You need to find another way to repay this money. Xian Yuanhao is not interested in conquering the world. Northern Xinjiang is close to Ziki. If my sister wants it, I can help you as my brother. Chu Qinghuang shook his head, I don't have this idea for the time being. Ziki still has many problems that need to be solved urgently, and he has no energy to think about other things. Xian Yuanhao hummed, turned to look out the window, stood up and said, it's getting late. I've asked someone to prepare dinner. If you have any questions, we'll talk over dinner. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 364. In addition to the 3 Xian Yuanhao brothers and sisters, he also asked people to call Xiejin and Xian Yuanyao for dinner. Why were these 2 people? Because Ziki and his party also went there and knew the identity of Chu Qinghuang. Ling Chuan is not in the imperial city. Rongzhan and Chu Qinghuang stood side by side, otherwise, your 5th servant will come over and join in the fun. Chu Qinghuang glanced at Fukang beside him. The little shadow guard lowered his eyebrows and looked at her with a submissive look. He didn't look jealous at all. Fukang. Exist. Don't take what the second brother says to heart, he is just talking nonsense. Yes, Fukang agreed, Master, don't worry, my subordinates won't think too much about anything. He knew Chu Lingchuan's identity. He traveled around all year round and shouldered heavy responsibilities. He was not a person who could serve the king. You two are now a family, but the second brother is an outsider when you are co-authoring. Rongzhan frowned, feeling more and more credible that the words of the female major were not allowed to leave. Why didn't the father teach this unscrupulous apprentice a lesson? Chu Qinghuang said, second brother is joking. Second senior brother, please calm down. Fukang said, my master will always be second senior brother's sister, and no one can change this. Rongzhan snorted coldly, you can't change the fact that you took away my sister even if you were nice and sweet. Fukang. Rongzhan Xianyuanhao turned to glance at him, how old are you? You are still as smart as a child. Rongzhan was silent. Child. Not a child. He and the imperial brother are both over 30 years old, and Fukang is a young man who is only 17 or 18 years old. There is an age difference of more than 10 years, and he is indeed suspected of bullying the weak. Rongzhan finally shut up. Chu Qinghuang's expression was subtle. The person in this world who could control the second brother, besides his father, was indeed the eldest brother. The eldest brother didn't even need to use force. The second brother had to listen to whatever he said. Several people entered the palace together, and before they could sit down, they heard someone from the palace reporting, Your Majesty, the chief assistant and the general are here. Come in. Yes. Xian Yuanyao and Xiejin are Meng Buli Jiao Buli Meng's confidants. They have never had any problems with their relationship over the years. The chief assistant has definitely been obedient to the prince who was cut off by him. You would never actively make him angry. Even if you occasionally get angry, apologize sincerely and never let the other person have a grudge. As two people who broke secular taboos, the fact that this relationship can last for more than 20 years is really beyond the expectations of many people. Most men in the world are ruthless. Not to mention two men, even loving couples can maintain a strong relationship in middle age. Couples without children are mostly resentful couples. The relationship between Xiejin and Xian Yuanyao surprised many people. At the same time, it also convinced many little girls who did not understand the world that true love does exist in the world. The two of them walked into the palace, bowed to His Majesty the Emperor as courtiers, and then thanked Jin and said, Her Majesty the Empress of Ziki went to Dongling as an envoy. She should have brought more envoys and guards with her. How come she quietly arrived at Dongling alone? Who said I'm alone? Chu Qinghuang raised his eyebrows, there's something wrong with Uncle Xie's eyes, or is he deliberately unable to see Fukang beside me? Xiejin smiled calmly, as I get older, my eyesight is indeed a bit difficult, but this does not deny that Her Majesty the Queen is here to bring too few people this time. What if we encounter danger along the way? Only with few people is safe. Chu Qinghuang sat down at the table, Ziki still has several princes who are eagerly waiting to deal with me. If I bring envoys here, the target will be too big and eye-catching, making it easy for assassins to attack. Xiejin was about to speak when he heard that Chu Qinghuang added unhurriedly, as a queen who has just ascended the throne, I don't want to commit more crimes. After the new year, I have to fast and chant Buddha for a period of time when I go back to pray for my father and mother. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere instantly became subtle. The eyes of several people present all fell on his face, eating fast and chanting Buddha's name. Yes, Chu Qinghuang nodded, this is a bit of filial piety as a child. Rongzhan frowned, why do I see that you don't want to be a queen, but want to be a bodhisattva who can save all sentient beings? Tisk Xiejin shook his head and walked over to find a seat to sit down. The King of War doesn't understand. Her Majesty the Queen is taking this opportunity to show her filial piety and ask the Lord to be merciful to his disciples in the future. Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment, Uncle Xie, you can eat more and talk less. Xiejindan smiled and said nothing. Fukang Chu Ching Huang said, "Come and sit next to me." Fukang glanced at the heavyweights present, lowered his eyebrows and said, "Subordinate. Nuan Er asks you to sit down, so you sit down." Xian Yuan Hao said calmly, "This is a family banquet, there is no need to be formal." Fukang was silent and sat down next to Chu Ching Huang without saying a word. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 365. The dinner was relaxed and harmonious. They were all family members, and were used to each other's temperament. Except for Rongzhan, who was extroverted, Xian Yuanhao and Nuan were both cold and introverted. Their care and love were all expressed in their gentle words. After dinner, Chu Ching Huang took Fukang back to her former bedroom. Xian Yuanhao had someone clean up her former bedroom in the afternoon, and all the bedding and curtains were replaced with new ones. As for how the palace people would speculate that a queen from another country moved into the princess' bedroom, it was not important. After Chu Ching Huang and Fukang washed up, the outside was already full of stars. Fukang took out the 6 strategies and put it on the table, and began to copy the book in horse stance. Chu Ching Huang sat aside and watched, with a smile on his face. "You are really hard-working," Master said, "judging people by their calligraphy. If a person can't even practice calligraphy well, he has no right to talk about other ambitions." Fukang said, "Practicing calligraphy is a long-term process, and I dare not slack off. The degree of his pen strokes is the degree of his hard work on weekdays. If he dares to be lazy, the master can see it at a glance. Besides, he wants to go down the mountain and return to his master as soon as possible, so how dare he slack off?" "Not bad, the boy is teachable." Chu Ching Huang nodded. "If I have such a disciple, I must feel very relieved." Fukang raised his eyes silently. "The master can also be relieved to have a subordinate like me." Chu Ching Huang raised his eyebrows. "This guy is really different." After going up the mountain to learn skills for a few months, his previous inferiority and stubbornness seemed to have disappeared. Now he has become particularly obedient and the whole person has become lively. Well, as for other changes, they are also visible to the naked eye. Chu Ching Huang was once again thankful for her wise and brave decision. If a short separation could make this guy reborn, then everything was worth it. Standing up and walking over, Chu Ching Huang stood in front of the desk and looked at the words written by Fukang. After a while, he said, "Did you practice according to your father's handwriting?" "Master's handwriting is more vigorous and powerful, and looks majestic." Fukang nodded, "But I am dull and can't write the charm of master for the time being." "It doesn't matter, take your time." Chu Ching Huang said, "I believe you." Fukang blushed. "Master likes to praise me very much." "What's wrong with praising you? It doesn't cost money or effort." Chu Ching Huang rubbed his head. "Keep working hard, I'll read a book too." "Yes." Chu Ching Huang walked aside and sat down, no longer disturbing him. "The little guy is working hard to improve, and he is getting stronger in all aspects. If he is stronger, it won't take long for him to become a qualified emperor." Chu Ching Huang's eyebrows moved slightly, and he felt that this title seemed to be good for him. Looking up, Fukang was concentrating on practicing calligraphy. His calm eyebrows and solid posture, with just a little more stable pressure from years of experience, would be enough to make him a qualified ruler. Chu Ching Huang lowered her eyes to read a book. The weather at the end of February was warm and cold, and the night wind blew in through the window, still with a bit of coolness. Her eyes fell on the open page of the book, but she didn't turn the second page for a long time. She imagined the future scene in her mind. The two of them read memorials together, discussed government affairs together, and in their spare time, the handsome young man personally brewed a pot of tea, and the curling tea fragrance spread, making people calm. In summer, cool off in the center of the lake, play a song Phoenix seeking Phoenix on a whim, or stroll by the lake, or enjoy the flowers on the corridor, no matter when, there is always such a person quietly accompanying her. Chu Qinghuang's eyebrows softened, and she felt that living a life like this seemed to be fulfilling. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 366. In the next few days, Chu Qinghuang often took Fukang out for a walk. One of her two royal brothers was busy chasing his wife, and the other was busy training soldiers. Chu Qinghuang was very considerate and did not take up too much of their time. The capital of Dongling was visibly more prosperous than that of 11 Qi. Whether it was the houses of officials and people, the buildings on both sides of the long street, the clothes of pedestrians on the road, or the flow of people in the shops along the street, the prosperity of a powerful country could be seen. In the next 20 years, I will make Ziki become so prosperous. Chu Qinghuang sat in the carriage and looked at the busy traffic on the street. Compared to the ambition to conquer the world, the stability of the people's livelihood is more important. The king's sage, Fukang, what do you think? Master Shenming. Chu Qinghuang lowered the curtain and looked at him. You have to learn to have your own ideas, and you can't always agree with me. Fukang responded and changed his statement in a good-natured way. Master is right, and my subordinates think so too. Chu Qinghuang. There are many similar things. Even if the family is strong and prosperous, it does not mean that everyone has outstanding moral character. Occasionally, when he encounters a few officials and women chatting about the girls from the Fu family on the road, Chu Qinghuang will ask Fukang, do you think emotional matters are your own? What's more important, your feelings or the opinions of others? Fukang thought for a while. They are all important. For me, I don't need to explain to others. For my family and country, I have to consider the consequences. Chu Qinghuang hummed. Fukang added, but if the king is strong enough, there is no need to worry about any consequences. Because a strong person always has a way to take care of both sides. Not bad, Chu Qinghuang praised. I can see much more clearly than before. Fukang lowered his eyebrows. The master has been praising him more and more recently. Just like eating, he praises him in different ways for 3 meals a day. The praise makes him feel guilty and he can't help but wonder if he is really that powerful. Chu Qinghuang looked at the sky. It was almost evening, and he was about to return to the palace when he suddenly caught a glimpse of the face of a young man in a bright red robe, which was more eye-catching than the red feathers of a peacock. Chu Qinghuang's eyes narrowed slightly, and she noticed where he was going, and said calmly, Fukang, I will take you to visit the brothel. Fukang was confused. Visiting a brothel? Chu Qinghuang nodded. Subordinate. Fukang struggled, wondering if his master was taking the opportunity to test him. Subordinate is not interested in women from brothels. Chu Qinghuang said indifferently, whether you are interested or not, we won't know until we go there. Fukang didn't understand what kind of medicine she was selling in her gourd, so she could only nod her head. So Chu Qinghuang took Fukang to the most prestigious brothel on the busiest street in the imperial city. As soon as he stepped through the door, the madam and Ying Yanyan came out and said, Hey, where are these distinguished guests from again? Before he could finish his sentence, his throat felt as if someone had suddenly strangled him. The gaily dressed madam's smile froze on her face, and then she smiled along with him. Girl, what are you doing? How can any little girl come to visit a brothel? And he also brought a man with him. The old bastard's eyes were as bright as lightning, and he could naturally see that Chu Qinghuang was an extraordinary person, and that his appearance and clothes were the most noble among the nobles. He did not dare to offend easily for the moment, but just stayed with him carefully. This is a place where men come to have fun, and girls are here looking for someone. Chu Qinghuang nodded casually, yes. The old madam was surprised. I wonder who the girl is looking for. Chu Qinghuang took out 100-tael silver note and stuffed it into her hand. Don't let anyone disturb me. I'm walking around. Is it convenient? The madam was speechless. Young lady, you are joking. The people here are all high-ranking officials. Their purpose of coming here is to have fun. If they are disturbed. Chu Qinghuang took out another 100 taels of silver notes and gave it to her. I know that the guests spend a lot of money, often spending thousands or tens of thousands of taels. I am here today neither for fun nor to find trouble. I promise not to give any money if you cause any trouble. You accept the tea money. The old bastard's face was a bit unsightly. No woman had ever come to a brothel in an upright manner. If that still doesn't work, maybe you can take a look at this. Chu Qinghuang took out a token and flashed it in front of the madam. Do you see it clearly? The face of the old madam suddenly changed. Girl, I didn't make any sound of buying or selling by force, nor did I force girls into prostitution. Chu Qinghuang frowned. Can you shut up? I will wander around for a while and then leave. If I don't find fault with you, you are not allowed to say anything. After Chu Qinghuang finished speaking, he walked directly in, walked through the lobby and walked up the stairs to the second floor. Fukang followed silently, not understanding what his master was doing here. Fukang, when they reached the second floor, Chu Qinghuang turned to look at him. It's a coincidence that we come to Dongling this time. Brother Wang's birthday is coming soon. Fukang was stunned for a moment, puzzled by what he meant. Chu Qinghuang walked slowly along the corridor, listening to the movements in the room as he walked. Before the emperor ascended the throne, northern Xinjiang would send tribute gifts at the end of the year. After the emperor ascended the throne, they would come to Dongling every spring. Hearing this, Fukang immediately guessed what he meant. Master means. I just saw a vaguely familiar face. Chu Qinghuang frowned. The other person entered the brothel very quickly. I didn't see it clearly, so I can't be sure who it is. Fukang was silent. Someone who looks familiar but can't identify him. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 367. Chu Qinghuang walked through the long corridor, listening to the noises coming from each elegant room, the laughter, the chatter, the lingering sound of the piano and the flute. The guests in the private rooms all pay attention to their status and taste, and will not be too impatient. Even if they want to do something, they will pay attention to the style and always adjust the atmosphere before entering the topic. At the corner at the end of the corridor, a deliberately low conversation sounded into the eardrum. Chu Qinghuang paused and turned to look at Fukang. Fukang understood and jumped onto the roof in the bright lights. Standing outside a room, Chu Qinghuang turned around and looked around. The token of the War King had a deterrent effect. The madam dared not listen. At this time, no one was walking on the corridor, and it was very quiet. Chu Qinghuang stood outside the door and listened for a while, then raised her hand and gently poked a hole in the window. Because of the line of sight, she could only see at least two men sitting in the private room. One of them was a man in red with his back to the window, and the other was sitting in front of the carved window, holding a wine cup in his hand. His facial features were deep, and he didn't look like a Dongling or Ziki person. Northern Frontier Emperor Duan Muyu. Chu Qinghuang had seen him before, but she didn't expect that he had arrived in Dongling quietly. As for the man in red with his back to her, Chu Qinghuang hadn't figured out his possible identity for a while. The man who came with the Northern Frontier Emperor? Chu Qinghuang's eyebrows crossed with deep thought, and without staying for long, she turned around and left before the guests in the room noticed something was wrong. Just after a few steps, Fu Kang caught up. The two of them walked back along the corridor without speaking, until they went down the stairs and walked to the lobby on the first floor. Chu Ching Huang glanced at the madam waiting in the lobby. The other party's expression was obviously fearful, but she had to smile. "Did you find the person you were looking for, young lady?" Chu Ching Huang shook her head. "No." "Then don't make a big fuss about what happened tonight," Chu Ching Huang said, "just pretend I haven't been here." The madam agreed repeatedly, but she thought in her heart that so many people saw her coming just now, even if she didn't make a fuss, it wouldn't be a secret. Chu Ching Huang seemed to see through her thoughts and said lightly, "Others can see it, but no one is allowed to discuss this matter." Yes, young lady, don't worry, I promise to keep them quiet and never say anything." Chu Ching Huang nodded and walked out. Sitting in the carriage, Chu Ching Huang said, "Fu Kang, did you see the man's appearance clearly?" Fu Kang nodded. His expression was a little subtle. "He looks a bit like the master." Chu Ching Huang was stunned. "Who?" "A bit like you, the master." Fu Kang pursed his lips. His voice was much quieter, and his face is violent, and he looks a bit gloomy. Chu Ching Huang looked at him and frowned slightly. "You mean, my face is also violent?" "No." Fu Kang shook his head quickly, and then a hesitation appeared on his face. "The master used to be, but not now." Chu Ching Huang hummed, "So this is what is called appearance is determined by the heart?" The former Chu Ching Huang had a cold and irritable temperament, which can be seen from the face. The palace has changed a lot compared to before, so the face looks much more pleasing to the eye. Is that what you mean? Although the appearance is the same from beginning to end, the feeling given is completely different. Fu Kang nodded. "Not only is it pleasing to the eye, the master is gentler and kinder than before, and has a heart of a bodhisattva, so the face is noble, elegant, beautiful, and generous." Chu Ching Huang sneered, "Just assume that what you said is true." Fu Kang was silent. What he said was true. He never lied to the master. But in this case, that person should be the fifth prince who exchanged identities with you. Chu Ching Huang recalled the face she saw. No wonder she felt familiar, because the appearance was somewhat similar to hers, but she was confused, and she didn't associate the other party with herself, so she ignored this key point for a while. "The man with him is the emperor of Northern Frontier," Chu Ching Huang said indifferently. "Although his appearance here at this time should be related to the annual tribute, I always feel that this fifth prince is coming for me." She just heard their conversation, and there was a sentence in it. Who would have thought that Chu Ching Huang would ascend the throne and become the empress so soon? No one expected this. The man in red also cursed Old Immortal, and the person he cursed should be the emperor who had just abdicated not long ago. She brought fewer people along the way, so the intelligence she got was not so timely, but today it seems that what happened in Ziki recently has indeed surprised many people, and many people are secretly paying attention to the direction of the court in Ziki. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 368. "My father should be arriving soon," she frowned. "I never heard my father mention the matter of the Prince of Yangguo before on Kangyun Mountain." Fu Kang didn't say anything. He didn't know much about this issue either. But the doubts were soon cleared. Early the next morning, Rong Yu and Nan 11 arrived at the imperial city, and Jian Kong entered the palace in a light carriage. Chu Ching Huang told Rong Yu this problem and received a very calm response from her father. "Beijiang and Yan Kingdom are tasks left to Fu Kang, and I will not provide you with any intelligence help." The implication is that Chu Ching Huang is already the king of the West Qi country. From now on, whether she is governing the country or fighting against enemies, she must rely on herself. Just like after Xian Yuanhao ascended the throne, Dongling only relied on him and Rongzhan. If there is no reason to help, Rong Yu will not take the initiative to intervene, and will focus on living a leisurely life after abdicating the throne. Chu Qinghuang understood. Fukang's task in Kangyun Mountain is to learn skills in the early stage and practice in the later stage. He must have the ability to be independent, otherwise he will not be able to learn and go down the mountain. No wonder my father didn't mention a word about northern Xinjiang and Yan Kingdom. Chu Qinghuang nodded slowly, so, I can't stay in Dongling for too long. She brought few people with her this time, so she could not obtain information in a timely and accurate manner. If someone really did something rebellious during this period, she would not be able to deal with it in time even if she wanted to. Unless you can ensure that even if you leave for a year, no one will be able to threaten the country of Ziki. Wrong, you said calmly, otherwise, you should go back early. Chu Qinghuang nodded, yes. Although she had already arranged all the things that needed to be arranged, with Prince Rong and Chu Xuanyi here, the possibility of an accident was very small, but no one could guarantee that she would be able to sleep peacefully. After all, she had only ascended the throne a few months ago, and the Supreme Emperor abdicated in a hurry. Her foundation was not yet stable. The reason why the ministers did not dare to resist was because the shadow of the previous house raids was too great. Most of them were afraid of her. If she was taken advantage of by someone with ulterior motives, switching sides is nothing unusual. The appearance of Yanguo, the abandoned prince, made her even more convinced of this idea. That night, Chu Qinghuang and Fukang still slept on the same bed. After bathing, she leaned on the bedside and looked at Fukang. I decided to go back early tomorrow morning to avoid a long night of dreams. You stay here and wait for the birthday of the emperor, and then return to Kangyun Mountain with your father. Fukang seemed to have anticipated this decision and remained silent for a moment. My subordinates will escort the master out of Dongling, enter Ziki and then come back. No need, Chu Qinghuang refused. No matter where we are escorted, we will be separated. You should be sad when you should. There is no need to worry. Fukang pursed his lips. I'm worried about this. If this prince of Yanguo came for me, he would definitely think that I would stay in Dongling and wait for the emperor's birthday before leaving. It would be easy for me to avoid their eyes. Chu Qinghuang's expression was cold, and his eyes were crossed. After much thought, and I reasonably suspect that there is someone in the DPRK who has close contacts with them. Fukang nodded, my subordinates also have this idea. That's why I have to go back early. Chu Qinghuang touched his head, I'm not powerless and can protect myself. You don't have to worry too much. Although the time they get together won't be too long, and they will be separated sooner or later, Fukang still didn't expect that they would be separated so suddenly, and he couldn't help but feel a little depressed. After being silent for a while, he raised his eyes and looked at Chu Qinghuang with gentle eyes, then master, can you? Can you? Fukang coughed slightly, his ears slightly red. Chu Qinghuang raised his eyebrows, can I kiss you? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 369. Fukang nodded shyly, but before he could say anything, Chu Qinghuang suddenly turned over like a carp and instantly pressed Fukang under him, looking down at him condescendingly, Beauty, will you obey me tonight? Fukang was stunned and looked at her with a confused expression. Silly. Fukang came to his senses and pursed his lips because of nervousness. Master, do you want me to sleep with you? Chu Qinghuang hooked his chin and raised his eyebrows lazily and playfully, you seem to be looking forward to sleeping with me. Fukang stayed calm, subordinate, the loyalty of the subordinate belongs to the master, and the body also belongs to the master. Chu Qinghuang lowered her head and kissed him, blocking all sounds in an instant. The air seemed to become silent for a moment. Fukang clearly heard the violent heartbeat. He didn't know if it was his own or his master's. Well, it should be his own heartbeat. His master was always calm, and would never beat so hard. The soft touch made him sink. The clear and charming breath lingered on the nostrils. Fu Kang was so nervous that he forgot to breathe. He unconsciously clutched the mattress with both hands, like a little daughter-in-law who was about to be raped by an overlord. "Why does it look like I'm bullying you?" Chu Ching Huang raised her head and stared at his nervous expression with closed eyes, feeling happy. "Before, I was thinking about what kind of ban I should give you in the future, but now I think, you are fit to be a docile little daughter-in-law." Fu Kang quietly opened his eyes, recalling the feeling of talent, and said after a moment, "My master is wise and powerful, and I am willing to be my little wife." "What are you talking about?" Chu Ching Huang patted his head, stood up and leaned back on the bed. "A man should stand upright. What I want is a loyal and docile little wolf dog, not a soft and easy to bully little wife." Fu Kang pursed his lips. This subordinate is willing to be bullied by his master. Chu Qinghuang's expression was subtle. "How do you want to be bullied by me? With a whip 3 times a day? Or make you kneel on the washboard every day like a tigress?" Fu Kang sat up, with a faint smile on his lips. "All my subordinates are willing. Although beating and scolding is love, I really want to treat you like that. I'm afraid you will never think of me as a gentle and kind little fairy or a bodhisattva who saves all living beings," Chu Ching Huang said casually. Reached out and flicked his forehead. "Besides, I have a hobby of torturing people. You are willing, but I am not willing." Fu Kang slowly leaned over and said, "I know that the master is reluctant to let go." Chu Ching Huang tilted her head. "Fu Kang. Master. Looking at your recent changes, I fully believe that 3 years is enough for you to complete your transformation." Chu Ching Huang smiled lightly, "But you are not allowed to learn to be glib, and you are not allowed to play tricks with me." Fu Kang nodded obediently. "Yes. In the future, I will go to more places and see more gentle women." "Don't look around and don't think about it in your mind," Chu Ching Huang warned him. "Although I believe you, I should say what I need to say first. If you have any other ideas, I won't give you a chance to make up for it." "I don't know how." Fu Kang's expression changed slightly. "No woman in the world can be as gentle as my master." "Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder." Chu Ching Huang finally confirmed that she was unique and perfect in this little wolf cub. She hoped that this uniqueness could last longer, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, so that it would not fade throughout her life. "Well, I know you won't." Chu Qinghuang's expression became gentler. "It's getting late, go to sleep." Fu Kang couldn't sleep. She was destined to have insomnia again tonight. Thinking of saying goodbye tomorrow morning and not knowing when the next meeting would be, Fu Kang felt empty and particularly uncomfortable. "In order not to distract you, I have decided not to set foot in Kangyun Mountain within a year," Chu Ching Huang said in a serious tone. "I am working hard in governing the country in the palace. You can study in Kangyun Mountain with peace of mind. Stop worrying about gains and losses. Did you hear that? 1 year?" Fu Kang thought for a moment in silence and nodded slowly. "Yes. A year is very long, but if you endure it, you will get through it. How can the fragrance of plum blossoms come without suffering from longing?" Chu Ching Huang had to go on a journey tomorrow, and would work hard day and night in the next period of time, so Fu Kang was very sensible and did not disturb her again, nor did he pester her to talk like before in Kangyun Mountain. The two of them fell asleep quietly next to each other and spent a quiet and warm night. The next morning, Chu Ching Huang didn't even say goodbye. She had already said everything she needed to say before she decided to leave. Both royal brothers knew her decision to leave, and the loan procedures had been completed. There was nothing more to say. Rongyu and Nan 11 are also used to separation. As long as their daughter is well, parents have to let go when it's time to let go, so it's rare that this part of being reluctant to leave her doesn't happen again. Chu Ching Huang left the imperial city in a carriage. After leaving the city, he put on a fast horse and galloped away with his bodyguards. Fu Kang watched the horse's hoofs getting further away and stood silently for a long time. Only when he could no longer see the figure in front of him that worried him, did he turn the horse's head and drive into the city gate. The end of February was the birthday of Dongling Emperor Xian Yuanhao. A grand palace banquet was held in the palace, and the envoys from northern Xinjiang sent tribute gifts on the occasion of the emperor's birthday. His Majesty the Emperor of northern Xinjiang came in person, and under the attention of everyone, he sent his most sincere blessings. I wish His Majesty Emperor Ming a long life and good health, and the Dongling Kingdom will last forever for generations to come. The cold and handsome emperor raised his hand and signaled, Emperor Duanmu, please take a seat. Duanmu thanked him and looked around before sitting down. The man standing next to him searched the crowd with his sharp eyes like a hawk, but he never saw the person he was looking for, and his brows knitted tightly. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 370. Didn't it mean that Queen Ziki had been in Dongling for several days? Why is no one seen? Duanmu felt suspicious and turned to look at Yangguo Prince Wei Hung. There was a deep color in their eyes, and then they sat down without saying a word. Northern Xinjiang pays tribute every year to celebrate my birthday. This year, His Majesty the Emperor is even more present. I am very touched. Xian Yuanhao spoke lightly, with a calm and cold tone. The majesty of the king of a country is so strong that it makes people's hearts palpitate. Emperor Duanmu have a heart. Duanmu raised his glass. Diplomatic relations are a major event between the two countries, involving the people's livelihood and stability, and cannot be neglected. His Majesty Emperor Ming and I have the same heart for the people. I thank His Majesty Emperor Ming for his tolerance to all countries. I would like to toast to the Emperor. Xian Yuanhao picked up the wine cup and gestured to him from afar. The civil and military officials below naturally raised their glasses in agreement. As for whether it is for the sake of the people's livelihood of the two countries, they know very well in their hearts. Although the Duanmu Emperor had been on the throne for a long time, he had come to Dongling twice when he was the crown prince, and his visit had bad intentions and had great ambitions to annex the world. It's a pity that his ability is not equal to his ambition. Nowadays, Dongling is a powerful country with the largest territory, the strongest military force, and the richest economy in the world. Emperor Duanmu knew that he could not afford to offend him, so he had to keep his tail between his legs. In previous years, princes or prime ministers were sent with envoys to pay tribute. This year, the king of a country came in person, and he had some ulterior motives. I heard that the regent went to Ziki and recognized a adopted daughter. Duanmu raised his eyes. Congratulations to His Majesty Emperor Ming for having an adopted daughter. Xian Yuanhao's expression was indifferent, thank you. However, the recognition of the adopted daughter is a matter between the father and the mother, and it has little to do with me. You can't say that. Duanmu looked a little unnatural, and even his smile showed a bit of hypocrisy and far-fetched. The adopted daughter recognized by the regent has become the Queen of Ziki. This means that Dongling and Ziki will be in the future. As a family, the relationship between the family will naturally become closer. That's true in name. Xian Yuanhao nodded, but in fact, public is public and private is private, and they cannot be confused. Although the diplomatic relations between the two countries are important, they still have to be measured, otherwise they will only make people suspicious. What suspicion? Worried that Dongling has thoughts of annexing Ziki? Duanmu thought this in his heart, but he also knew that the Dongling community was stable and the possibility of initiating a war was very small. After all, with Dongling's strength, not to mention the more than 10 years since the new emperor ascended the throne, even if the queen and regent had not yet while in power, it is not difficult to annex other countries. Therefore, it is really unclear what kind of attitude Emperor Dongling holds towards Ziki now. Emperor Dongling celebrated his birthday in the palace. Chu Qinghuang galloped for 7 consecutive days, traveling more than 1,000 miles a day, and crossed the border of Dongling on the 3rd day of March. Encountered assassins when they arrived at the junction of Dongling, Dazhu and Ziki. A dozen masked men in black clothes descended from the sky, all of whom were highly skilled in martial arts and held long swords. There were also a dozen crossbowmen who were ambushing in the mountains. Obviously he came prepared. Chu Qinghuang stopped his horse and looked coldly at the group of assassins in front of him. Their eyes were dead and calm, without any emotion that belonged to humans. Death warrior. A soldier who will never stop dying. Chu Qinghuang was obviously not panicked when dealing with such a battle. After all, there were only about 30 people in total, which was not enough to make her panic. But even though she wasn't panicking, it didn't mean that some people wouldn't be self-righteous. Just as the two sides were exchanging words, Chu Qinghuang watched the men in black fall down one by one. All the evil energy in Chu Qinghuang's body was stirred up, and a white shadow fell from the sky. In the wilderness, whether it was an assassin or a hero saving a beautiful woman, they all seemed to like it. Appear in an enigmatic manner. I don't know how many times I rehearsed it beforehand. In short, this man swept his long sword across the battlefield and killed all the dead soldiers who were at the end of their crossbows in an instant. Then he landed gracefully on the ground and clasped his fists towards Chu Qinghuang, showing a gentlemanly demeanor. Girl, don't be afraid, the thieves have been killed by me. The chivalrous character of the man in white and drawing his sword to help was clearly revealed here, completely ignoring the several masters behind Chu Qinghuang. This place is full of no regard. The area is full of fish and dragons, and it is inevitable that there will be some bandits and bandits. It is inherently dangerous for the girl to go out, so she must be extremely careful. Chu Qinghuang's expression was calm and his voice was light. Thank you for your help, sir. I don't know your name. My surname is Zhou, my single name is Xiao, and I am known as Mr. Saturday. Chu Qinghuang silently looked at the handsome young man in front of him. Mr. Saturday? Zhou Xiao, the sixth son of the Zhou family, the largest merchant family in the Western Qi dynasty, is the most powerful among the direct lineage of the Zhou family. Although he is still known as the young master, he has already taken over the power of the family head.